Get started. If everybody would take a seat.
Where's the group here?
Tony, are we ready? Okay, I'm going to call this regular meeting of City Council to order of June 25th, 2024. If you would, please stand while Mayor Pro Tem Mike McPhee does the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
If it is your custom to pray, please bow your head with us. Father God, flood our path with your light as we walk humbly towards a future filled with encounter and unity. Be with us, O Lord, in our efforts, for only by the prompting of your grace can we progress towards virtue. We ask this through your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next we have public comment. Is there anyone who would like to comment on items that are not on the agenda? All right, Brenda?
Do I have to say it again?
Yes.
Yep. Brenda Litchfield, 808 Hamilton Street. I just had a quick question about something that was in the grant. It said that an engineering consultant was hired in the fall of 2022. Who was that?
Talking about for this, what we had in the
Pardon?
work session?
Pardon?
You talking about what we did in the work session?
Yes.
I think it was Davis and Floyd. Scott, do you know?
Who?
Davis and Floyd?
I can't hear.
Davis and Floyd.
Oh, Davis and Ford. They were the ones that hired. Okay. Then the other question was, how were they paid if the grant wasn't awarded until May of 2023?
Ms. Litchfield, we'll be glad to research those answers and get them back to you. And you could also send us an email. We'd be glad to respond to that with that. But this is public comment period and not a time for questions.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Ivy? Is it on?
Did he touch the button?
I'm sorry.
No, there you go.
I'm Conway Ivy, 501 King Street, and I'm here regarding the King Street Drainage Project. Davis and Floyd presented an updated proposal at the work session that we all just attended prior to this meeting. This was a response to several public sessions that occurred in May. For the most part, the proposal was unresponsive to my and the community concerns. The issue concerning the King Street Drainage Project is the placement of a pumping station and related structures in Charlie Knott Park. This placement destroys the park and the view shed. Residents' concerns are not with the need to repair or replace the blocked and clogged sewer pipes. A properly operating gravity system would not impinge on the park. It would retain the open area that has existed throughout Beaufort's history. This alternative approach has not been developed or publicly evaluated after repeated requests. In the April 23rd City Council meeting, I stated, and I quote from my comments then, quote, "The proposed addition of the pumping station, generator, and outflow structure should be stopped until we can see if repair and improvement of the gravity system will address the problems as it has in the distant past. Mossy Oaks had a persistent flooding problem for years. This has been corrected with a gravity system." In other public meetings with Davis Floyd and city representatives present, I and others have continued to propose consideration of a gravity system. The meetings were April 10th Historic Review Board, April 26th Public Hearing on all downtown drainage projects, May 7th, as a prelude to the May 8th public meetings, a petition signed by 280 people requesting a moratorium on the Davis and Floyd proposal, pending a thorough and complete analysis of the need and impact of the proposed system, AKA, why doesn't a properly functioning gravity system work? The signers of this petition constituted 76% of the Point residents, which would even be higher if you remove the 10 rental units and 12 vacant houses from the total. May 8th, public meetings, Historic Review Board, followed by public update session, followed by City Council workshop. May 13th through May 17th, Point neighborhood one-on-one meetings with individual council members. The question of a gravity system was raised in all of these meetings. After the May 8th meeting marathon, and it was truly a marathon, as you all would well remember, the city and Davis and Floyd indicated they would consider modifying the plan. This resulted in the revisions that were presented to council in the work session prior to this meeting. A gravity system without pumping station in the park was not considered. Davis and Floyd, through these number of months, has indicated their commitment to a pumping station and not park. That is fine. They have their reasons and approach. However, an independent engineering firm should prepare a gravity system alternative. It is incumbent on council to have two alternatives to consider. This is particularly true since the pumping station cost is $6.8 million out of a total $9.5 million total project cost. This is aside from the irreversible destruction of the park. Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering, that is the firm that designed the Mossy Oak system, is the perfect firm to do this study. They successfully designed the Mossy Oaks gravity system. I believe everyone is happy with the results. I and others have been impressed with their work. I do not propose creating a gravity system alternative lightly. Council's decision is extremely important for our neighborhood and community. To underscore my total commitment, I offer to match dollar for dollar up to $50,000 the city of Beaufort's cost for a gravity system study. This offer is subject to Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering doing the study. I and the city engineering department together determine the scope of work and monitor its progress. A final legal agreement executed with all of the appropriate conditions. This offer is open to be accepted in principle until 5 p.m. next Friday, June 28th. Yesterday, I spoke with Mr. Ilan Farzan, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering. With his permission, I can disclose that his firm will consider taking on this project, that he supports the city having alternatives to evaluate, and that his firm has a good relationship with the city and they value that relationship. I undertook this inquiry as I did not want to make this proposal if his firm was unwilling to consider the assignment. Given the collegial nature of the civil engineering community, I am confident that the development of a gravity system alternative can be accomplished in a timely, professional manner. Thank you very much. I think this gets to Josh's comments about thinking outside of the box. I think we had a gravity system for 100 years. We should have an expert engineer evaluate what those alternatives are and the cost to give you all an opportunity. And I'm not prejudging the conclusion. I think a gravity system will work for various comments through all these public meetings, but we'll see. We'll have a professional engineer look at that and the cost. And this is a way going through this, resolving the problem. If the gravity system doesn't work, then, okay, what are the alternatives? That swings back to a pump station. So I am very obviously serious about this. I have signed this document. I'm going to give it to you. This is a valid binding offer till 5 o'clock Friday.
Thank you.
Can you give a copy to our city manager, please, too? Thank you.
Thank you.
If we can get one for the city manager. Oh. Thank you, Conway.
Hi, Dave Russell, 411 Craven Street. I think one thing that struck me about the whole King Street drainage project is the firm that did all of the studies on future rainfall, all the forecasts, is the same firm that is got the engineering work and all the design work. So to me, it seemed like, and I guess this segues what Conway was saying, is that there wasn't an independent entity doing all the research and forecasting on future rain, future flooding, et cetera. It was the same firm that, lo and behold, recommended this, large infrastructure project. So I think from the beginning, there seemed to be a conflict, and there wasn't an independent body giving on one side, and then another body implementing those findings. I think the other thing worth noting, I think Mr. Horton said it at the May 8th meeting, was that the construction costs from 2022 have increased 40 to 60%. And I think he said there was some cushion built into the original estimate. But I think it's important for the public to know, because this will be coming out of reserves that could be used at Henry Chambers Park or tax revenue, what the true projection now is for the project, because I doubt with those 40 to 60% increase in cost, it's going to be 11 million, and what that's going to look like.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Anyone else?
Nancy Russell, 411. He didn't listen to me. Two things are, there are also the ongoing costs of running this. This is not like the tidal gate where it's done and maybe you maintain it a little. It's the pump running. It's the generator running. It's who is going to maintain this when the original problem has always been maintenance. Maintenance, we don't have the personnel and the training. We have someone who knows how to do it already at Mossy Oaks. It's the same person, the same group. It's not reinventing the wheel. And the second thing is, reading about Mossy Oaks, they came in under budget, which is that company shockingly had a budget and still came in under. So it's something to consider.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Maxine Lutz, 811 North Street, and I am a property owning citizen in the historic district, and I'm speaking for myself and no other entity. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like my comments included in the written minutes, and per requirements of your policies, I will provide my comments in writing to the city clerk if you agree. I'm here to commend Mayor Phil Cromer for his fearless remarks at the June 11th City Council meeting in support of preservation of our National Historic Landmark District and of the preservationists who have struggled to protect it since the 1940s. I and many others who have come to this chamber agree with the mayor that a professional preservationist should be on the Historic District Review Board. I applaud you, Phil, for standing firm in the face of those who are content to let their apparent predispositions and apparent fear of consequences inform their, and in the most recent case, inform their secret votes. Any elected official who is willing to let their constituents know their vote is indeed a profile in courage. I call on you, all of you, at the first opportunity to appoint a professional preservationist to this board as is required by your ordinance. At this time, you have 2 people who were appointed according to the minutes because they live or own property in the historic district. One is a trained architect, but I wonder why you feel the need to appoint 2 people who meet the requirement of living in the historic district and not a professional preservationist. You have one person who is a practicing architect. That's good. That meets that requirement. But why did you also just appoint a second architect? Not because that person is a trained architect, but because that person will now meet that requirement of living in the historic district. You also have a contractor on the Historic District Review Board who works primarily in the historic district, but who is not a professional preservationist. He is a professional builder. And I think he would tell you that he does not define himself as a professional preservationist, but as a builder who is self-taught and specializes in historic structures. And finally, you have a developer who develops in the historic district. I'm not sure what ordinance requirements that meets. I'm not here to throw shade, as our former mayor used to say when people criticized others, on these volunteers. Most have impressive skill sets. Plus, they are very brave to step forward to be on the Historic District Review Board. I'm here to challenge all of you to meet the letter of your law and to appoint a preservationist to the Preservation Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lees. Anyone else? Tony, anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll end the public comment and move on to minutes. Work session and regular meeting, June 11th, 2024. Do I have a
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a second?
I had one thing,
Okay.
um,
On
And
the
I didn't-
minutes or before?
in the minutes.
Okay.
Yep. So this is something I didn't catch before, but on page 4, right under Councilman Lipsitz. And this is really just a point of clarification. I don't mind either way, but, the last sentence in there says, Mr. Barna stated that it is an unknown period. And then there's a sentence that says, out of the 570 piles, 343 are inaccessible. So I don't know if that is indicating that Mr. Barna stated that 343 are inaccessible, but I just wanted to be clear because I actually made that comment and I don't want to put words in his mouth. That was nowhere in the report. I just simply took the total of 570 pilings total, 227 being accessible, subtracted the 2 to come up with 343. And I didn't want that to be as if it was coming from him and putting words in his mouth. And maybe it's not written that way, but just for clarification.
Okay.
Not. Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, noted. Any other changes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is old business ordinance amending Part 1, Chapter 3, Article A, Section 1-3001A and 1-3003B of the City Code of Ordinances concerning the date and time of council meetings and the rules of order of council meetings. This is second and final reading. JJ?
Good evening again, council. As you will recall, in our January strategic planning session, we discussed updating our meeting ordinances and adopting a rules of procedure manual. At a previous work session meeting, council had an opportunity to review proposed ordinances and that proposed manual. That manual was adopted at our last council meeting by resolution and is now in place. And the ordinance that is before you, ordinance amendment that is before you this evening, just codifies that our council meetings would move from twice a month to the second Tuesday of each month. And if not, if that is a holiday, the third Tuesday. And then it continues to allow us to hold work sessions and other meetings of council on the second, third, and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 5 p.m. That is section 1-3001. And then the proposed amendment to 1-3003 just changes the language of that existing ordinance to adopt the manual that we adopted last week, and that be used, except as otherwise required by state law or this code, all proceedings shall be governed by a procedures manual to be adopted by council by resolution, and to the extent necessary for additional clarification of any rules of order, the most current edition of Robert's Rules of Order. So this would just codify what we've discussed over the past 6 months. Any questions about that?
Any questions or comments? If not, I need a motion, I believe, on
Yes,
this.
we do.
So moved.
And second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we move to Part B, updated city council meeting schedule for the remainder of the calendar year 2024. City manager,
Motion to approve.
have a second?
Second.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
If we need.
This is related to the item that you just approved, amending our ordinances to account for our new meeting schedule. This is a revision of the meeting schedule that you adopted prior to 2024, saying when we would meet throughout 2024. And basically, I'll cover the highlights of the meeting schedule update for you. It incorporates the changes that are consistent with the adoption of your standard operating procedures. It deletes regular council work sessions and meetings on the third Tuesdays. It deletes code edit work sessions. It adds quarterly capital project workshop updates in August and November. It provides a break from council meetings from July 9th until August 20th. July 9th is a regular meeting, and on August 20th, we will resume with a capital projects workshop. And then we will have an August regular meeting on August 27th, which will satisfy the statutory requirement for municipalities, councils to meet once in every calendar month. Are there any questions?
Only question I have is on December the 10th, I think when the swearing in of the new council members.
Yes, sir.
What time will that be?
Normally, we set it at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock?
traditionally.
Okay.
Also, you have down on August 20th, the Capital Projects Quarterly Workshop.
Yes, we will resume on August 20th with the capital projects workshop after your summer break.
And that'll be at 5
And what's that?
o'clock?
That will be at 5 o'clock, yes.
And on November 26th, the same.
Yes. Unless you choose to hold it at a different time, which is your option.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think we need to vote on that. That's for information only.
Well, no, this is approving the changes to your meeting
Okay,
schedule, which
so
you
we've already
adopted.
had a motion and
This is an
second.
adoption. We
Yes,
do.
it is an adoption of the revision.
But just
Okay.
a one, we don't need to vote on it twice, just,
No, just once. It's just an up-down vote. You approved your initial meeting schedule. You just need to approve the revisions to
Gotcha.
it. And we'll bring you a meeting schedule for 2025 as we get toward the end of the year.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of the city council schedule, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now in new business, we have an ordinance to amend fiscal year budget for revenues and expenditures of the general fund, ARPA fund, Parks and Tourism Fund, State Accommodation Tax Fund, TIF2 Fund, Stormwater Fund, and Capital Projects Fund. This is first reading. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
second.
We've got a second, okay. JJ, you gonna run with this? Or
Good evening,
Alan?
council.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give a quick disclaimer and answer any questions council may have about that before turning it over to Alan.
Okay.
So, under new business, item A and B, this is primarily a rollover of our existing capital improvements budget. There were a couple of changes to that that I emailed council about previously, and we'll make sure to make these documents available to the public. And those are related to the Carnegie Library improvement projects and the Battery Shores drainage project. Initially in the 2024 amendment, as discussed at the city council planning retreat in January, we had allocated $30,000 for the Battery Shores drainage project for engineering services. Speaking with McCormick Taylor, who is our currently contracted stormwater engineer for the city, they gave us a price proposal that we also spoke to Davis and Floyd and ICE about this project. And the total from McCormick Taylor was the $39,402 for the engineering services. And that is to prepare plans, estimate specifications, and associated NPDES and OCRM CZC applications for the removal of accumulated sediment and debris from within the Otter Circle stormwater pond, as well as improvements to the drainage system in vicinity of the ponds. These improvements include placing a drainage pipe in front of 1149 Otter Circle, cleaning existing grass swells upstream from this location to ensure positive conveyance, and the extension of the storm drain outfall at the rear of 1149 Otter Circle. And that would be completed through the current on-call contract with the city of Beaufort. So staff recommendation would be to adopt the amended budget that's in item B, which is for $40,000 as opposed to the original $30,000. And again, you have a breakdown of that updated cost estimate. Something that came to light in the last few council meetings as we've been moving through these capital project budgets is the city has traditionally not updated their cost estimates on a regular basis. That was not provided for in a lot of our service contracts. Something we have adopted in the past few weeks is on the capital improvements team is anytime we are bringing a budget amendment to council or a new budget item to council, or anytime it has been over 1 year since a budget had been adopted or a cost estimate had been completed and discussed, that needs to be updated. Right now, everybody we're talking to seeing these cost increases of anywhere, I'm hearing from 20 to 40%, depending on the type of project in the public sector. And we can talk all day long about what those reasons are. It's an unfortunate part of doing business, but we don't want to catch those after we've gone out to bid. And then we come to council with contract items and it's, 40% higher than what the budget that was adopted was. You should know anytime we're amending a budget, anytime we are adopting a budget, what those cost estimates are from the capital projects. And if we're off, but we need to be updating those. So that is one thing we're doing moving forward. The other project today is the Carnegie Building roof improvements, which is more than just roof improvements. There's an interior portion of the project, an exterior portion, and a drainage portion. We use Metters as our contracted consultant on historic structures. And this project has been out to bid 2 times so far with no responsive bids either time. And some of the feedback that we've gotten, our staff, I want to commend the finance staff for reaching out all across North and South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, to different places that have similar roofs and historic structures that Metters recommended. and getting feedback and trying to get people to come and take part in this bidding process. But the feedback we've gotten is that the interior work and the exterior work are two very different projects, and these historic preservationists that do this type of work, or even just the roofers that do the type of work that would be needed here, don't generally have subcontractors on hand, aren't generally in the area, would have to travel in. So they recommended breaking that bid apart into two pieces, and potentially a third piece for the drainage. And that's the opinion of probable cost that was provided to council today. On that project, the general conditions, used to 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, on those, at most, you would see a 5 to 10% increase. In this, for the exterior work, there is a proposed 40% increase, and in interior scope of work, a 25% increase. This original cost estimate was done is in 2021 or 2022, and that is based on our consultants, an actual review of real projects that they are working of similar scope all across the region. It's based on what they're seeing, anywhere from 30 to 40% on average is what they're seeing an increase in costs in that time period. So that's why you see those increased cost estimates. Linda is here and may be able to speak if you have specific questions about that particular project. I would defer to her because she's the resident internal expert on that. But I wanted to address those matters before council, before Alan goes into the overall budget amendments, and see if you had any questions about those specific projects. Because everything else is really just a rollover, or there is one project, the Pigeon Point drainage study. We had initially allocated matching as grant funding, and we had initially allocated matching funds from ARPA last year. Once we were awarded the grant and got into that process, we found out we could not match that particular grant with ARPA funds. So we would be taking those ARPA funds back out, de-obligating those, and using stormwater funds to match that. Everything else is just a rollover from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25.
I guess for me, Linda, there's probably very few contractors that specialize in this kind of work. Is that why we're getting very few bids or no bids?
Combination of the fact that exterior work was included in the RFP. Plus it is clay tiles that are being, in the way that we've done the RFP is we're trying to save the tiles, because the tiles are okay. It's the mortar that is not, that's failing. And then the dormers are continuing to deteriorate and need to be fixed, of course. But I think it's the very few contractors do the clay tiles, and we've reached out. We actually reached out to some in St. Petersburg, Florida, and St. Augustine, and there's very few that actually do it. But I think it was really the combination of the interior work, plaster work, and the exterior work also. So right now the RFP is requiring that the tiles be taken off, broken tiles be replaced, which is kind of, they have a long lead time, but, it's not replacing the entire roof. It is just fixing the mortar or replacing broken ones. There is some consideration that possibly it might be cheaper or more advantageous just to take it all off and put it all back on, but not change it from the clay tiles, still have clay tiles. So those are the things that we're kind of grappling with, but we would love for responses to come back so that we can at least discuss that particular part also. But mostly it's because.
So you're going to be segmenting the roof work, the drainage, or the I guess, the gutter,
The gutter part and the drainage underneath.
three
it.
separate.
Possibly all three. We're still grappling with whether that we're gonna go with three or just the two. We think that there are some of the roofers would be able to do
Gutter work.
the gutter work.
Okay. Thank you.
Was there an RFP for just the roof that was sent out at any time, or was the RFP always capturing both the exterior and the interior?
The last two RFPs, which is what we've been dealing with, have always been the two scopes, the interior and exterior. We had one unqualified bid come in that was not qualified, but
And you think that we would have an opportunity to get more bids if the two were separated?
correct.
So aside from it taking more time, in your opinion, do you feel like it would be a bad idea to go back out to bid and separate the two now? To see if we can get,
I think that's the only answer we can have, is separating the two and going out for bid. I don't think we should not keep them together. We should go out for two separate bids, one for interior plaster work and then the roof work.
okay.
You need any direction from us on that, or I'm all in favor of doing that if you
No,
can get the
but-
bids. But
The only thing is the budget changes a little bit, and because you're doing two separate, it's like mobilization twice instead of one time. When you have,
Increase the
yes, when we
cost.
have a subcontractor, you bring them in, and they have a little bit less footprint as a plasterer, but you still would have to, you're gonna have to pay for that in two separate jobs.
And I don't know if we have any local roofers that are able to put this roof back on. But if we were, I'm wondering if we would see that same 40% for general conditions, because I don't know that I've ever seen it that high, and maybe it's different in Florida or elsewhere. And so maybe that's what they're seeing, and it's more common, or maybe I'm just missing it. But I haven't ever seen 40% general conditions factored in. So hopefully if we did go out and got two separate bids and split the project, maybe somebody a little bit more local would not have a 40% general conditions, right?
At the pre-bid for the roofs, just to kind of give you an idea, we did have a couple of roofers that when they came in, they were more local and so, but didn't have the expertise of the plaster. But you're correct. However, the estimates that we are presenting today is based on very similar projects just in Charleston. And that Metters has been doing, Charleston and Greenville area, upstate. So they are seeing estimates coming in for about 40% higher, or bids coming in realistically 40% higher. And that's just like JJ said, we could talk about that all day, why they seem to be going so high, but I agree with you. I think that there are a couple of roofers here who can do this.
Especially because we're salvaging some of the materials. We're putting the roof back on. So it's, I guess if supply and demand played into it and we just haven't completely stabilized since COVID, then okay, maybe the argument could be made for 40%. But if we're reusing the materials that we already have, it just seems a bit steep.
I agree, but we wanted to be safe.
Yep.
Sorry.
Although I think you'll find in most renovation projects with reuse of existing material is usually a higher cost. Because the reuse of the preservation of existing material usually requires more labor to do that work. And that's oftentimes why it's more costly. Why renovation costs are almost as high as building costs.
I would think it'd be in the cleaning of the tile if you had.
Whatever they need, but I can almost, I'm not aware of any in my experience of any local roofers that can handle Slater tile. I don't think, I mean, I think there's a contractor on Hilton Head that actually does some faux slate roofs, but, and I don't think we have any architectural groups up here that do slate roofs. I mean, slate, there are some slate houses,
We have one tile
but
in my
not
neighborhood.
tile. That's very infrequently done in our market, but.
Council, y'all have heard from me plenty tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to Alan. Thank y'all.
Bring us some good news, Alan.
Yeah, thank you, JJ and Linda, for that. Backup documentation and support. But yeah, this is for, as JJ mentioned, this is some of our fiscal year 24 projects that we were anticipating completing in fiscal year 24, but they got delayed. So now we're pushing into fiscal year 25. So our first budget amendment is just for fiscal year 24. A lot of these projects, we are de-obligating these funds in fiscal year 24. So I was kind of go down the list. Battery Shores Drainage Project, $30,000 for engineering services. Pigeon Point Playground Equipment, 400,000. City Hall Security Improvements for 100,000. The Carnegie Building Roof Improvements for $215,585. The Spanish Moss Trail Sidewalk Extension, North Street of 30,000. And then finally the 500 Carteret Street windows replacement and exterior stucco repair for $100,000. Once again, these are previously funded projects that we need to unfund in fiscal year 24 and move into 25. But happy to answer any questions about this fiscal year 24 budget amendment.
Any questions, comments? Okay.
I have a question. And it's probably need to refresh my memory on it. Spanish Moss Trail sidewalk extension, 30,000. I'm trying to remember the discussion. For some reason, I thought we had
Decided not to do it.
decided not to do that.
Yeah.
No, that was the
Delayed it or
extension with
something.
the rock. And I think
Right,
we
correct.
did go with that one.
You
We,
did with-
we didn't go with the 170 extension just recently, but because there was not a better option for material because of that lava rock that was used, we went ahead and moved forward with the $30,000 connection.
I
right.
thought I remembered.
Yeah, so I got you. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor of an ordinance amending section 1-3001A and 1-300B? Excuse me, wrong one. The FY 24 budget for revenues and expenditures of the general fund. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now we move to B. We're moving to the 25 budget.
Yeah. So
Motion to approve.
Have a
Second.
second? Okay. Go ahead, Alan.
yes, this is kind of early for us to start doing fiscal year 25 budget amendments, but this is just once we talk about kind of moving this into the new fiscal year. These are projects that are still in the process. So we'll kind of go down the list again. The Battery Shores Drainage Project is now up to $40,000 for engineering services from ARPA fund. Pigeon Point Playground Equipment, still 500,000. We're using 300,000 from ARPA fund, $100,000 from Parks and Tourism Fund, and $100,000 from our capital project fund. The City Hall security improvements will remain the same, $100,000 from TIF2 fund. The Carnegie Building roof improvements now budget is $395,520, with $382,320 coming from ARPA fund and $13,200 coming from capital project fund. The Spanish Moss Trail Extension North Street is still remaining at $30,000 from state accommodations tax fund. 500 Carteret Street window replacement and exterior stucco repairs, still $100,000. That's coming out of ARPA funds. And then as JJ mentioned, our Pigeon Point drainage study, which is our local match with FEMA, we thought we could use $54,000 from ARPA funds. Then we found out while researching the grant a little bit further that that is not a allowed local match, that we need to provide a local match. So now we're using the stormwater fund for that local match. So that just kind of moves that expense from the ARPA fund into this stormwater bond fund. But happy to answer your questions that you
Okay, any
add
questions,
about-
comments?
So in total of the deallocation and the reallocation, we're spending another 300,000 so far.
You can
And
say, yeah,
that's, and we're not confirmed on we're not confirmed on the finals for some of these.
For the Carnegie roof project?
Right. No, I mean, that's, the deallocations were for 775,000 and the reallocations are for 1,065,000. So
That-
that's about $289,000 difference.
That would be the swing, yes.
So the rollovers are just according to the changes that we already know about, but we still know that we're going to have some changes in other possible bid issues.
That's correct. And some of the rollovers are projects that we intended to do, but for various reasons, we have not been able to allocate the funds for that this year. And so we're rolling those over to the FY25 budget.
Right. And some of those did not change
Correct.
as far as.
Yeah. And most of those estimates from the 24 budget were, how old were those estimates?
yeah,
Two-
some are at least 2 or 3 years old.
2 or 3 years
Now
old.
these are more
Okay.
revised. And
'Cause that's a significant increase, but, I don't know if it's just related to the Carolinas, it may be, but
Everywhere.
it's pretty crazy.
Personally, I would prefer not allocating the difference for the Carnegie building until we had a bid estimate back from the 2 RFPs. So I feel like we're going back now, and based on the bid that we have with them, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but based on the bid that we have with them coupled together, we're going ahead and moving money around to fund it as if we were moving forward with this. But then we're going back out for 2 RFPs after splitting this, and we don't know what we're gonna get from that. Is that correct?
yeah, we are for Carnegie Library, planning on doing 2 RFPs for that. The first one will be for the exterior work, and the second one will be for the interior work.
So why would we not wait until we get that back and then we could come back and make an amendment or not based on the results of those 2 RFPs? Because
Yeah,
But
we
Metters has given
Look
us,
at it.
Metters is utilizing similar projects to give us a cost estimate on the amount that we're
Yeah, we're trying to do. it for the-
rolling over. Remember, this is being done as a placeholder for capital project from the standpoint of the budget change.
You don't have to spend it if the
We
bids come
we
in
can
low.
always change it again, but it's still a placeholder for the project.
For the entire project.
And we'll always be adjusting at the end of the year for the end cost and the end results of the project. But I hear what you're saying. Why don't we wait until we get an exact bid and do it? But because it's been on the capital projects, we need to maintain the funding sources for it in the budget in order to reflect properly where the capital money is going.
well, and I think we would do that if it stayed at the 215 that it's at. It would still maintain. And then if we needed to come back and make an amendment after we knew what it was
But
gonna
from a-
cost, then that
from
would
a-
make
From
more
a
sense.
prudent standpoint, we already know it's gonna cost more than that, so why wouldn't we budget for a higher amount?
Maybe. But we haven't sent out an RFP with it split up before.
Remember how much the sidewalk we voted down? I mean, you go ahead and believe that, and I'll go with you on it, so.
Yes, another comment to add is right now fiscal year 25 capital budget, the Carnegie Library roof is not budgeted. That we thought we were going to finish that in fiscal year 24. So this is why I feel we need to include this. We're doing both of those 2.
But we had the 215, right? And so we just moved that over into FY25. So that's done. Now we have it at least funded that much. So I guess my question is why would we go ahead and add additional funding to the tune of having 395,000 in that pot of money when we don't know what it's going to cost because we haven't gone out for bid yet with them split up?
We're changing the funding source though.
Yeah.
Because the 215 was coming from Parks,
And tourism.
was coming from Parks and Tourism. Now it's gonna come, the 382 is gonna come from ARPA.
Yeah.
So we don't have it in the right place.
So
We have to make a change anyway.
that fair enough. So then why wouldn't we just make the change and have 215 come out of the ARPA?
We know it's not going to be that little.
But we don't know what it's going to be.
We can always do a budget amendment and put it back in.
Or we can do it a budget minute and bring it back up.
It's one or the other.
It's one or the other. I guess I'm just wondering why I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse by moving the money in there when we don't know what it's gonna cost because we haven't got the bid back.
I guess technically, the first fiscal 24 budget to take it out kind of zeroes out that budget, but doesn't necessarily roll forward into fiscal 25, the 215,000. It is kind of a new fiscal year. So we need to allocate some funds into fiscal 25 for the Carnegie project.
What's council's pleasure? We can do it either way, the way I see it. As long as it's coming out of the ARPA money. I mean, Colin, where it's coming
I would like to make a motion to amend
from, motion.
item 4 to be 250,000 instead of 15 coming from the ARPA. This way, we add a little bit more than what we allocated last year, but we're not increasing it to the tune of this bid here. So a motion to amend it to 250 from the ARPA opposed to the 395.
Do I have a second? Motion fails and
Fair enough.
have a second, so. Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, call the question, on the vote on the ordinance to amend the fiscal year 25 budget for revenues and expenditures. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
No. Yeah. Okay. Now we move on to reports. Thank you, Alan. City manager's report?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to give a big thank you to Nate Farrow and our Public Works personnel for sponsoring the Touch a Truck event that took place on Saturday, June 15th at Pigeon Point Park. Probably one of the more successful Touch a Truck events I've seen since I've been living in Beaufort, not just since I've been with the city, but it was a great event. We had great support from the police department, from our fire department, and from Beaufort County EMS, who all had their vehicles and personnel on hand as well. I don't think that event could have been better executed than it was. I enjoyed participating in the Project Freedom 326 Juneteenth Unity Parade on June 16. It was the first parade of that type, but we hope it will be an annual event. Thanks to the police department for letting me hitch a ride in their golf cart again. That's 2 parades in a row with PD, but next time I'm putting Chief Ogden on warning, I'm going to ride with the fire department. The Police Department Future Guardians Initiative Summer Camp Program concluded last week. I would like to thank Councilman Scaletti for providing opening comments to that session. It was a very successful event, and we will definitely repeat that next year and hopefully expand it as well. The Police Department held an open house event on June 22nd. We had a great participation from the community. Again, another annual event that we're building on, and thanks to our officers and other PD staff for making that happen. On the same day, Beaufort County Parks and Recreation held a Unity in the Community event at the Charles Lynn Brown Community Center. We were proud as city staff and council to partner with them, and we thank them for that event. Also, I want to recognize Councilman Mitchell for the active role he played in making sure the event was a huge success. Thank you, Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you.
The Fire Department's Sparky Embers program for young ladies is taking place this week. Chief Ogden tells me it's going very well, and I'm proud of both of our emergency services departments for their youth initiatives this summer. The police department will be hosting Chill with a Cop event at Ambrose Run on June 26th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And on August 1st, they're planning another Chill with a Cop event at Spanish Trace with a time to be announced later. The fire department is offering CPR instruction to rising 6th through 12th grade students on June 29th. You can get more information on the department's social media page for registration information. Want to let everybody know that the Dragon Boat Race is this Saturday at Waterfront Park. You know what that means. Expect large crowds and scarce parking in and around the park, but it's for a great cause. So please go out and support it if you can. And other than that, I want to wish everyone to have a safe and happy 4th of July. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. For the mayor's report, first of all, I had the honor of speaking at the ribbon cutting of the new Harris Teeter grocery store today. My gosh, I've never seen so many people in my life. And I almost got run over because they must be giving away a lot of free stuff. I could hardly make it to this meeting, but I did. Also attended the change of command at Paris Island. We have a new Brigadier General, Ahmad Williamson, who assumed command. I had an opportunity to get to meet him and his wife. I think we're looking forward to good relations with them going forward. Also attended the Beaufort County 250th Committee about activities forthcoming on the celebration of the American Revolution. Attended the 100th anniversary of the Duke Endowment Foundation Luncheon in Charleston. I don't know why I was invited, but I took advantage of it, and it mainly involved around healthcare, but they're going to do a lot of things with nursing and all that in our area, so I think it's important that we showed up. Also, I'll be marching this Friday, June 28th, in the Carolina Day Parade in Charleston. That's also my birthday. So I'll be marching with the Beaufort College trustees. They're part of that group. And also want to give congratulations out to Sean Hill and SK Design and Marketing, and Tony, you too, for 10 years of successful business here in our community. And also thanks to everyone for attending the work sessions and our council meetings over the last several, today and earlier. And also want to welcome, wish everybody a happy 4th of July as well. So with that, I'm going to start on my right with Mitch, Councilman Mitchell.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I was the Grand Marshal. My first time, well, second time being a Grand Marshal. Makes me feel kind of special. Anyway, for the Juneteenth parade, I want to thank Marlisha Robinson and Tiana Parker, and they asked that I thank council for granting permission for the parade. I especially took note that Chief Price was there, and she was kind of leading the effort and making sure the streets were safe and clear, and the event went off without a hitch. So I told her that, but I just wanted to mention that officially. I thought that was just wonderful of her to just be right in the front there, taking charge. Also, as was mentioned earlier, most of the rest of the things I'm going to say has already been mentioned, but just for emphasis, the Unity in the Community Come Rise With Us is an event that took place at Charles Lynn Brown last Saturday. And I want to applaud Eric Brown for putting that on. It's something that he had done in his previous job in South Miami, and had a lot of success with it. And he wants to do that in terms of connecting Parks and Recs from the county with our folks in the city. And he's going to do the same thing with other Parks and Recs facility. Also want to thank Scott Marshall. We, the Friends of the Charles Lynn Brown Center, assisted significantly in making that event happen. So I just look forward to that partnership. I think that's developing in a good way between Parks and Recs for the county and our city. I also was at Touch the Truck. It's amazing to me. It is exciting to see how excited little children get off of seeing big things with the lights. And, you know, for me, it's like, it's nice to see a police blue light that's not behind me. So, so I get excited because I can be calm when I see them. I also attended the police open house, which was really nice. And also was at the change of command for General Williamson and the outgoing commander. And happy 4th of July to everyone. Safe 4th of July too. Thanks.
Very shortly, I attended the meet and greet with the Residential Empowerment Coalition, sort of a realignment of the Housing and Securities Commission that I've been serving on. We had an in-person meeting as compared to our normal Zoom meetings, and met up with a lot of the partners associated with it. It was specifically very interesting. The United Way has purchased a disaster relief shower system that is a self-contained shower wash machine system that can go into different areas, and that will be employed in September here in Beaufort County, so that between areas where homeless are located as well as during disasters, they can be utilized for showering and washing clothes and so forth. Right. It'll be mobile. It's in a truck and it's totally mobile. And it is ADA accessible. They spent the additional money for that. Also attended the LATS meeting, which surprisingly, in attending the LATS meeting, I was named chairman as compared to usually in absentia when that occurs, but I will be serving as the chairman for the next 2 years for the local area transportation advisory commission, and also attended the Unity and Community, which was a great turnout and a great program at the Charles Lynn Brown. And other than that, I've been out of town. And thank you all for picking up the slack for me. That's all I got.
All right. So real quick, I do want to thank staff and Davis and Floyd for all of the work that went into and is continually going into the drainage projects, especially the King Street. I know at times with some of the feedback, it almost seems like there's not an appreciation for that, but there absolutely is on my part. I know, even if at times I don't align with, what the alternative options are. So thank you very much for all of the work that goes into that. It is appreciated. Today, I was able to attend the Soloco meeting, and Representative Shannon Erickson was giving an overview on childcare and the need for childcare facilities and some of the challenges that they're faced with. In preparation of that, I just did a little bit of research here to better understand what facilities we have in the city. From what I was able to find, we have 7 different facilities and a total capacity of about 377. So I think that is probably a testament to why we feel so much pressure in that regard. Not only that, but just the cost. On average, it costs about $11,000 per child per year for families. So a lot of them, I know that there's programs for those that may make less than $39,000 a year, but for those that maybe make $40,000 or $45,000 a year, they're right there. They don't have enough money to be eligible for some of the scholarships, but they also can't afford to put their child in a child care facility. So I think there's a lot of issues that were identified today, and it's good to have a representative that is not only active at the State House, but also in that line of work to kind of provide real life examples of some of the struggles, and then how municipalities or counties can work together to provide some kind of incentives to provide more childcare options for families in need, because it is definitely something that we struggle to accomplish at times. There was something else, and now it has escaped me that I wanted to discuss. I will just lastly say for the record, I know that there's this idea that this council did not appoint a preservationist to the HRB in our last meeting, but one of the appointments that we made specifically had on their resume that they were licensed in historic restoration. And so for me, surface level, that would be the definition of a preservationist. So I do feel confident in that appointment, and just for clarification on that, I do feel like there was a professional that was appointed to that body. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I too attended change of command at Paris Island. Always a great ceremony. Love going over there. Just want to commend you, Councilman Mitchell, on the unity in the community, all the hard work you did, and it paid off. I mean, it was a really great event. Let's see, Eric Brown also. I mean, he's showing county picked the right person for, really got a good person in that position. Happy birthday, Phil, early. And is Chief Price here? No. I just wanted to commend her on the police open house. I mean, everybody worked together, great event. And Chief Price, if you're listening, I got 2 people I want you to do a welfare check on. I'll give you the names later. I think we know, but anyway, I'm not mentioning names right now. With that, I would like to make a motion pursuant to Title 30, Chapter 4, Section 70A, 2 of the South Carolina Code of Law, discussion regarding the purchase or sale of property, and pursuant to Title 30, Chapter 4, Section 70A, 2 of the South Carolina Code of Law, discussion regarding contracts, leases, and agreements. I make a motion, we go into executive session.
So moved.
Second, unavailable. We're going to executive.